Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our primary audience, Lindy Haynes and my alma mater, the University of the Free State. Today's talk from Share Screen Africa is exploring the depths and heights of nature series. So the concept of size is relative, and pondering on it can really give one perspective. Today, as we view the magnificence of our planet, we take a virtual journey into the captivating worlds of two superb creatures, whales and giraffes. Our adventure begins in the enchanting coastal town of Hermanus, where we'll be joined by esteemed whale expert Dave de Beer. A former Gauteng businessman and amateur wildlife photographer, Dave may never have imagined that his journey to Hermanus would lead him to accumulate over 50,000 photographs of this species. Framed photos of whales, birds, and other wildlife are sold from his studio in town. He also shares his passion with tourists that visit Hermanus with guided bird watching and whale tours. Be prepared to be awestruck as Dave takes us on a captivating tour showcasing his extraordinary photographs of the southern right whales. And through live footage of the bay, we will see these majestic creatures that frequent every year as a nursery and will witness their grace and wonder up close. But the exploration doesn't end there, because next we'll transport ourselves to the heart of Nairobi, Kenya, for an exclusive live tour of the renowned Giraffe Center. Emmanuel Ngumbi, who set this tour up, is a Kenyan citizen with a Master's of Arts in Environmental Planning and Management, as well as a BSc in Range Management. He also holds a certificate in Geographic Information Systems. He is a specialist in rangeland ecology, human and wildlife interactions, biodiversity conservation, education for sustainable development programs, and has over 18 years progressive experience in environmental education and conservation management. Victor will be our knowledgeable guide, providing fascinating insights into the incredible rehabilitation efforts being carried out with the Rothschild giraffes. So get ready to be mesmerized as he unveils the beauty and charm of those gentle giants, offering us an intimate glimpse into their lives. But first, we're off to Hermanus. And so, Johan and Dave, handing over to you.
Hi, thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon to everybody that's listening in today, and special welcome to the students from Bloemfontein, University van die Vrystaat. Okay, so Maret, just good welcome to you as well for putting this all together, and Johan sitting on my side here. The two of them actually baby me through everything and get everything connected for me. And yeah, I'm going to be talking for probably 40-45 minutes, and I've sort of broken it into one little section today. I mean, I can sit here and talk for hours and hours on whales, but today I've decided we're going to talk on the journey of a little calf from inception right up until about a year of age. I've compiled a whole lot of photographs, so we'll sort of start off pretty immediately. I'll be doing a lot of the talking. Take your notes, and yeah, feel free to ask questions when we are done.
Dave, just to let you know, we have two of our colleagues located on certain spots in Hermanus. So if they do see whales, I might interrupt you so we can go live to those areas, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah, I've just sent them on a bit of a journey where the whales should be now. So Johan is my wingman today. It's lovely, a presentation like this. Well, I'm sitting probably about 6-7 kilometers away from the bay in my house at the moment. And I was there earlier this morning, and there were a number of whales. So hopefully it's always a little short space of time to try and coordinate live whale sighting with a live talk. So good luck, fingers crossed, and let's hope we can see some whales in live action. Okay, so we're gonna start. Just for those that aren't in the know, I'd like to just sort of put you in the picture. Geographically, we are situated about 100 kilometers east of Cape Town, Southern Cape, the beautiful Walker Bay, the town of Hermanus, and this is actually the backdrop to the calving whales that frequent our shores for about 6 months of the year, starting sort of late May, early June, and then staying here right up until the end of November, first, second, even third week of December, the last remaining calves. So as I said, the talk today is going to primarily be on mommy and calves from inception, as I said, right up until they leave our shores when they're about 4 or 5 months old. But I'll take you through right up until they are a year old. As I said, I don't see them after 5 months because they then go down to the Antarctic waters, which is pretty much unnavigable and nobody can actually get down there. So what actually happens there, we think we know. We have started tagging the whales, and we are now starting to get a better picture and a better understanding of what actually happens. Okay, so just the first 3 pictures, just of Hermanus. This one in particular, my favorite rock where I sit and photograph the whales. And yeah, in the sort of bottom right-hand corner, you have a mother and calf, just to show you they come to the rocks, and you have the same mom and calf coming towards me, taken with a wide angle lens. I'm no more than 25 meters from this mother and calf. So pretty blessed. And once again, those students that have never been to Hermanus before, you better start putting this on your top priority bucket list, and you've got to get yourself down here, specifically in the months of August, September, and October, at the height of the season. And then, yes, I'll get straight into it now. The reason they come to our shores is to have their babies after a gestation period of 1 year. They also come here to mate, and they also just escape the harsh winter conditions of the Antarctic waters. So 6 months of vacation without any feeding. I say any feeding. Every now and then there's cold strands of water that would come in, or currents that would bring a little bit of nutrients, but nothing sustainable for them. So it's pretty much a feast or famine scenario where they can probably go without food for as much as, well, as long as 8 months, and then pretty much gorge themselves when they get down to their feeding grounds. Okay, we'll start off these photographs taken from land of a mating male and female. Now, the southern right whale is the most well-endowed creature on the planet. A penis length of about 3 meters, but the big size differentiation between any other animal and the southern right whale is their testicles. So it all forms part of their mating rituals. Their testicles combined weight about 1,000 kilograms, and obviously producing copious amounts of semen. And it is ultimately the male with the most vigorous sperm that will actually impregnate the female. The mating process can take place over a day or two, where as many as 3, 4, 5, even 6, I have on occasion seen 8, 9, even 10 males harassing a female. There's no aggression shown between the males. They will all pretty much take a turn. It's almost like a little lottery draw. Whoever gets number 1 goes first, and the other males will help corral the female, and then they will repeatedly mate with the female. If they want seconds, which they most likely do most of the time, they will just join the back of the queue in an orderly fashion and do their thing. Once the female has been covered and the gents are all sort of happy that she has been covered, what they do then is just move on to the next receptive female. And so the mating rituals take place in our bay, probably also a little bit around sort of De Hoop area. These whales are also found in Australia and New Zealand, and it all pretty much happens over the same period of time. The calves are born over a period, as I said, of 4 months, which is pretty much from June until probably end of September, with the last couple of calves being born sort of early October. The majority are born by end of July, beginning of August. And as I say, this year, we've had an absolute bumper year. I just hope now we go back to those guys on the cliffs now. Hopefully they can get a sighting of a mother and calf. We've got about 250 whales in the bay, 125 mommies with 125 newborn babies, all around the age of about 2.5 to 3.5 months. Yeah, another great photograph of actual penetration, male on female. And even though I've zoomed this in, there were about 6 whales sort of present at this mating ritual. Okay, so we now finished with that. 12 months passes. Mommy goes back to her feeding grounds, really beefs up because she has to now feed this calf with a very fat-rich milk. So once that calf is born, all that is the only whale that will feed is the calf, and will feed on a very fat-rich milk, as I said. And mommy has to actually use all her fat reserves for the remainder of the time that she spends here. So it is quite a weight loss for her over about a 6-7 month period, and I reckon quite daunting and quite tiring as well. Okay, so as the calf is born, I specifically put this picture here. The next one will be of a tail. Now I want the students and the others watching to look at those rufous-colored markings on the head area of the whale. Those are called cymids, which, for want of another word, are whale lice, and they will jump from mommy straight onto the baby, and specifically around the cheek area, and then on the tail area as well. You can see this is probably about a 2.5 week old calf. You can actually see the tail is very, very sort of flexible. The reason for that is it does not have any bone structure in it. So it is almost like a flappy paddle. And then what happens with the calves ingesting this fat-rich milk that mother produces? And just to give you a comparison, human mother's milk, probably about 3 to 4% fat content, where southern right whales will be as much as 40 to even 45% fat content. So what we're dealing with here is a very, very high fat content. So these little calves are sort of exposed to this rich butter type. It is such a thick concentration of milk. And of course, with 45% fat in it, these calves grow prodigiously. Generally, about 2 to 3 centimeters in length every day for the first 4 to 5 months of its life. So you just work it out. It's close on a meter in length every single month for the first 3.5, 4 months of its life. Then what would happen weight-wise, because of this fat richness, the calf will be born at about 5 to 6 meters in length and will weigh well in excess of 1,000 kilograms, 1,200, 1,300 kilograms. But then what happens with this fat-rich milk, the first 7 to 10 days of its life, the whale actually doubles its body weight. I mean, that is just staggering to think that in 1 week to 10 days, that little baby will be weighing well over 2,000 kilograms. Now, if I just sort of fast track it to the end of November, when most of the calves are close to 4 months of age, those little calves will be close to probably 8.5 meters in length and will weigh, I reckon, close to 7 to 8,000 kilograms. They are absolutely massive already. And the whole reason for this quick growth is so that the babies can follow mom back to the feeding grounds, where she will then still give the baby milk on the journey down to the feeding grounds, and then slowly introduce the baby to the food source. And then eventually, after 1 year, they will be totally weaned, and they can then go and face the ocean all on their own. So totally independent at the age of 1 year is pretty incredible. I'm now just going to slowly go through photographs of mommies and their babies. And I just want you to have a look at the callosity patterns. I'll get back to the callosity patterns. I'm just going to show a couple of pictures. It's always lovely doing a talk when you've got pictures to back you up. Yeah, we have a snow white baby with a black band around its blowholes, and then sort of splintering out into what is known as a brindled calf. About 3% of the calves born every year come out snow white with this black patch around them, and it is just a pigmentation disorder, so just a lack of melanin, and pretty much they will gray with age. They won't go completely black, as in this case where you can see mommy is totally black. And then the interesting fact here as well is I'm giving lots of percentages. About 94 to 95% of those little babies born will be male. There's a nice close-up. That's actually a different youngster. It fluctuates from season to season. The 1 year, I think it was about 2012, 2013, we actually had 13 little white babies in the bay. This year, we've got 4, and yeah, quite often I take my clients out, and we've had 2 mommies with their 2 white babies. They've pretty much stuck together the whole season. Okay, so yeah, we have a very unique combination. As you can see, the whale in the back is a darkened version of the one in the front. That is the mother at the back with the baby closest to me. So remember, I said to you, the 3% born, 95% will be male. This is the 5% that will be female. So very rare, and then that she will pass on her genes and have another white baby. So this is probably the rarest combination of southern right whales that you will see. Okay, so now looking straight on at this whale, this is the youngster. This funny knob-like protrusion on the snout or on the rostrum is known as a callosity. Now, a callosity or a callus, as we would refer it to, is just an eruption of skin, hardened skin that will protrude, and then this forms the basis for the cymids, those whale lice I showed you earlier, to make their home on it. They are host specific. They only find there are 3 species of these little lice that will home themselves on these southern right whales. Yeah, we have in the bay, pretty much where the camera is set up today. We have flat conditions today. However, we are known to be the southern tip of Africa, well, almost. So we are, during the winter months, we have, I say blessed, because we have some of the most amazing sea conditions where you can have waves anything from 6 to 7, even 8 meters, and even bigger when we have some real major storms. And yeah, we have a youngster being shown its way out of the water, and this is called breaching. Now, very interesting. I'm going to explain all that to you while we just look at this mother and calf lying in the shallows next to the kelp beds. They are very protective of their calves, and I call it the Velcro connection. They obviously just love their babies. The babies love their mommies, and they interact on a very sort of touching, personal level, sliding and rolling around. Mommy sometimes lying on her back, the babies really lying between her pectoral flippers. These are massive animals. I said to you, the baby is about 1,000 kilograms at birth. The mommies arrive here at about 65,000 kilograms, which, you know, just to put that into perspective, is you're looking at about equivalent weight of 10 African elephants. They are massive animals. The coloration on them is next level. I mean, you get all these, just the white cheek of this whale. They have marks on their underside. And then also occasionally they'll get white blazes on their backs. So yeah, it makes for some fantastic artistic photography, just beautiful little creatures. And all they're doing is just growing up, and mom is just making sure that that little baby gets coordinated, gets strengthened up, and gets ready for the big journey back to the southern oceans. Now, the baby obviously is unaware of this. Obviously, mother has done these trips quite a few times. The baby just thinks it's fun and games and just drink milk at leisure, which mother does encourage. But of course, then the babies have to adhere to some strict protocol. And in doing so, mommy, from the day that calf is born, will start showing the youngsters. I'm just going through the photographs now randomly. But the mother will start showing the youngsters how to breach. So I said, you saw that one photograph of the whale jumping out the water. Now, the reason for that is, if you go back to what I said about the tail that has no bone structure in it. So with her feeding the baby milk and doing exercise by slapping its tail up and down, known as lobtailing, that will start strengthening the whale's tail core, and will also start sort of solidifying the actual entire tail. In doing so, mommy will see that this baby is of sound health, has coordination, has good motor skills, and pretty much after mom has demonstrated a whole lot of breaches, I will get to a few breaches now before I go to that picture, but the breaching takes place around the calf. It's actually quite scaring, especially if the first couple of breaches. You know, there's mommy at a full weight of 60 plus tons. And you can actually see the little one just sitting there, sitting in awe, watching mom breach. And slowly as the season progresses and time progresses, by the time the calf gets to about 4 weeks of age, the calf then sort of realizes, right, I'm now starting to get the picture here. I'm now seeing that mom wants me to do exactly what she does. And it takes about 4 to 5 weeks, and then that little one does its first ever breach, its little solo breach, and then mom pretty much sits back and says, right, I can now see that I have a very, very sound calf, and pretty much she just says to that little calf in their own little language, I'll supply the milk, you just carry on breaching. Of course, the calf just takes it all on, gets bigger, gets stronger, until pretty much comes the end of November, when mom is then confident enough for that little calf to follow her back to her feeding grounds. Okay, so next photograph here. This is a young, probably about 2 months old here, with its mouth wide open. You can see the roof of the mouth, the palate, and then either side, the white sort of bow-like baleen plates. They are born with baleen plates, and those are their teeth, if I could use the word teeth. They have about 500 in their mouth, either side of their mouth, 250, give or take, and they are filter feeders. Now, just to give you an idea how big these baleen plates get to, about 2.2 to 2.4 meters. So these are massive mouths. They constitute about 30% of the total length of the whale. And filter feeding is a process where they go back to their feeding grounds and they feed off the small microorganisms of the ocean, namely plankton, copepods, euphausids, and all your little crustaceans. And just like humans, them being mammals as well, if I gave each of you watching this presentation a glass of salt water, you'd probably be able to down it. By the second or third one, you'll be rushed off to hospital. And if you have any more, your kidneys will pack up. So pretty much similar case with the whales. They obviously can process salt water much better than we can, but they also do not want salt water in their bodies. So they'll open their mouth, fill their baleen plates on the outsides with food. Once the mouth is now full of food, they will then close their mouth and squeeze all the water out of the baleen plates. Now, the baleen plates are sort of stacked together almost like a comb, almost like the pages of a book. So the water will filter out back into the ocean, but the food will stay back. The bristles will keep them back in the mouth. And once those, they follow down all their food. A unique feeding process. Once again, just looking at this whale now, that tail at the back of this little one, it just looks a little bit disproportionate. I do believe the tail actually grows, proportionately more so than the rest of the body in that initial phase, because it really has to get that tail strong and working. Okay, so I did say they are mammals. So just an aerial view. When I say aerial view, taken from the rocks, looking straight down at a whale, I get to within meters of these whales. And just to show you what their blowholes look like, they're about almost at a 30, 45 degree angle, and commonly known as the V blow. So when you're looking at them sort of kilometers away, even with the naked eye, you can actually see this beautiful V-shaped blow, which is the warm air from their lungs hitting the cold outside air and vaporizing. Okay, so here we have, just look carefully to the right-hand side of the picture. That is a 6 meter young, about a week old. You can see down the cheeks, this red color, and that would be the whale lice eating away at the cheeks. And then you've got mother, just her head out the water, and there's the size differentiation. I mean, the little calf at 6 meters and a mommy at 65,000 kilograms and about 15 meters in length. Okay, so little babies, once again, you can see the rufous lice all the way around, just below that kelp, what's that, sort of a kelp that is just off the storm, and they love to take them and glide their bodies, and in so doing, sort of just give themselves a nice little bit of a scratch, a bit of exfoliation. Also nice to see the patterns that are well established on the adult. They don't just consist of lice. There are also barnacles that attach themselves to that area. But as they get older, it also calcifies and becomes very, very hard. And it is colloquially known as the rock garden of the whale. And you can even see on the right-hand side, the little junior there, sort of nudging against mom. You can see the little one's callosity pattern hasn't quite formed yet. It is still, obviously, being only 2 months old there, probably even younger, that whale. These are the callosity patterns on the mother on the left, and then the youngster just sort of nudging up towards mother. As you can see, the little one's callosities haven't quite formed yet. Mother's sort of a sort of darkish, sort of khaki color. Now, that colloquially known as the rock garden. It actually calcifies, and then in amongst that will be the whale lice, made their little homes there. There are tens of thousands of them. There are also barnacles that attach themselves to these callosity patterns. And then the youngsters, you can see, still pretty, just in that eruption stage, hasn't quite sort of solidified yet, but that's to be expected after only about 2 months. It'll take them a good couple of years for them to really, really solidify. Speaking earlier about the lovely bond, the Velcro bond that they share, mommy and calf. This is a classic photograph, mom lying on her side, almost on her back, and baby sort of lying on mommy's chest. Okay, going out on the boats. I guided on the boats for well over 1,000 trips over many years. And just lovely to see how the whales are very inquisitive by nature. The mothers, when they get to about 2.5 months of age, they almost nudge them and say, okay, well, go and say hello to everybody on the boat. And of course, if they get told to go and do something, the little calves will come and swim around the boat, under the boat, front side, back side, stick their heads out, roll around, sometimes lobtail, sometimes breach, sometimes splash the people on the boat. I mean, it's quite incredible how they interact. All have their own little personalities. Just to show you an aerial shot. This is in the shallows of Walker Bay. You can actually see the shadow of the whale in the to the right-hand side there. That's probably only in about 4 meters of water. The little calf dwarfed by mom. And the next photo is even a younger calf. This calf here probably only about a month old. And then this one probably only about 2 or 3, maybe 4 days max. I don't even think it's 4 days old. Hitching a little ride on mommy's back. Tiny in comparison to mom. And they will be very safe in mom's company, which takes me on to predators, predation. It is not known of any predation by sharks or killer whales, orcas. They are pretty safe. Mommy has a massive tail. Just compare that little calf at about 5.5 to 6 meters. Mommy's tail is pretty much 5 to 6 meters wide as well. And I have seen one whip its tail around in anger, and I wouldn't want to be an orca or a shark anywhere near that tail. So yeah, all pretty safe. If they're close together, baby has nothing to worry about. Okay, yeah, right in front of mom, just doing little acrobatics, doing the little breaching, and mom just keeping a quiet little eye on baby to see its development. And once again, you come down here in August, September, October, this is what happens every single day. Here's a little bit of an older calf. This is now nearing the end of the season. This is probably the end of October, where the calves are now about 3 months of age. You can see they beefed up a bit, and they are very competent when it comes to breaching, know their story. You can even see that sort of in the foreground here. You've got a 1-meter wingspan seagull, and it is dwarfed by the wingspan of the little southern right. Now, just note all those lovely white markings. We did see the white whale, which I spoke to you about, being called the brindle. About 85% of southern right whales come born with a white coloration on its underside. It could be anything the size of a golf ball, or as in this case, anything from the bottom chin all the way down the belly, as far down as the tail. Okay, yeah, taken from the rock again, low level. We have two wingmen here, heart-lipped gulls, and this is a brindled youngster, about 3 months old as well. And a lot of times when the whales do breach, you'll get the birds will come out, and they know as soon as that whale lands, a lot of the whale lice that I spoke to you about earlier gets chucked off, and then it becomes a free meal for the birds. So quite a high protein meal for the birds as well. So also a little bit of symbiotic relationship there shared between animals. The whale lice, I didn't even say, but the whale lice, it is a symbiotic relationship they share with the whale. Their job is to make sure that the whale is pretty much looked after, or they eat away all the excess skin. And especially in that informative time, that the first 4 or 5 weeks of its life, where they will hang around the tail area and along the cheeks. Because the whale grows so rapidly, they pretty much have to clean away all the excess skin, the old skin, the dead skin, because that whale pretty much grows out of itself. So you noticed as well earlier with that long tail, that white tail, that tail really grows quickly. So of course the whale lice have to be down there and make sure they clean it up nicely. Okay, just a few shots here in the surf. Yeah, these whales are so playful. Now, this one, interesting, I'm sitting on the rocks. Now, that kelp grows in about 8 to 10 meters of water. And yeah, this whale, when that whale lands, I'll probably get a drop or two, so knocking against my body and wetting my camera. They do come very, very close. Another big youngster here, very close this time. This time I know I got wet here. So yeah, all in all, you can just see it's fun and games. And of course, mom doesn't see it that way. She lets the calf just go ballistic for 4 months. And then I'll tell you now, then it is a big almighty swim. We have the whale unit, which is part of the University of Pretoria and the University of Cape Town. And their satellite office is here in Hermanus, which just bodes well for research. They're very easy, quickly get the boats in the water and go and do research. And for the last 2 years, we're on the 3rd year. We've just finished tagging 15 southern right whales, 9 southern right whales last year, and then 4 in 21. And the information we're getting out of it is just invaluable. It's just opened up a whole new, I'm going to use the word can of worms because it's blown science completely upside down, because these whales are going to all corners of the globe. I'm talking anything south. And the distances they cover are just phenomenal. We had a mom and calf in 21 cover in 1 year 16,000 kilometers. I mean, even in a car is quite a sizable distance. So yeah, just incredible. Yeah, just beautiful, man. These snow white little babies with their little mottled, brindled, almost Dalmatian-like little black spots. And as I say, this is taken with probably 100mm lens, probably no more than 20 meters from me, just showing off. And this, I know, this features in my book. I have authored 2 books on the southern right whales. And this photograph was taken at Gearing's Point, where I think we got one of our photographers today. And okay, I used the big lens, but this hasn't been cropped one bit. And I'll tell you now, how much closer do you want to get? And if you really sort of zoom in here, you'll get all the little intricacies of the callosities, the eye, the blowholes, etc. Okay, very interesting here. Big seas, probably 6-meter swells. And this was a 2-month-old baby. And I had a few people come asking me and begging me, please phone the NSRI or please report this little whale was in distress, they thought. And I said, listen, this little whale is a sizable whale, was just having fun. And obviously just every wave came through, knocked the tail down. And then what it did was stick the tail up again. And of course, this was all to do with the strengthening process. If us humans were in that water, I reckon I'd give us all 30 seconds and we would have drowned. But this little whale was no more than about 50 meters from the actual, if you go to the left, you can see where the waves are breaking. It was only about 50 meters away from the rocks, but having a complete, if I can use the word, a complete jaw. Okay, now you just see once again that sort of flappy, sort of very elastic, flexible type tail, and this is because they don't have any bone structure. So it is all cartilage and muscle with more cartilage that eventually will solidify and make it quite a solid tail. Okay, there we have as well a young brindle. I just looked before I put this together in the week. I actually took this photograph 10 years ago, so I'd love to know where that youngster is. With Mommy's big, we lost it again here, I think.
No,
Fine. Okay. Mommy's big tail, Mommy just sort of applauding the little one. The youngsters, as I said, this photograph taken 10 years ago, they reach sexual maturity at about 7 years to 8 years with the females, and the males about 10, 11 years of age. Longevity as much as 70, 80, even 90 years, and even some marine biologists and scientists saying as much as 120 years, which I can absolutely well believe. Okay, nice little sunset shot. This a nice calm day. I'm sitting right at the back of the boat, pretty much on water level, and a little youngster just sort of, it wasn't even it was like a half-hearted sort of day end breach, a little bit tired, but just thought it'll give us a last little show. And then, right at sunset, always a fantastic time to silhouette those tails with a bit of splashing. Just dramatic photography scenes that you can get out of these beautiful whales. Okay, this is now what I would call my hole-in-one shot. Very, very rare. This is what Mommy has been working towards, in sync with that baby, to get them to breach together. And this is when Mom knows that that calf is now ready to take on all the milk she can give, and then Mommy can just work that little one. So an absolute happy and ecstatic mom, and I would say just as happy a little one, just probably its first or second ever breach. Absolutely incredible. And now that's probably a different scene, but just to show you how big that Mommy's tail is, about 6 meters wide, and with little babies sort of head just breaching the surface there. You can see all those sort of protrusions, the callosity patterns there. And one of my all-time great shots. Nice to see the water cascading off that tail. And this whale obviously had just finished breaching. Remember I said the birds look out for that. As soon as the whale jumps and lands, they know there's going to be a free meal for them, the birds, and they will then go and hang around and look for these little mere morsels, the whale lice. But what a lovely shot. And that pretty much concludes my talk on the babies and their journey, their first 4 months here in the bay, and it is quite a spectacle. And it does follow a pattern, a very stringent pattern. And then by the end of November, first week of December, the majority of the calves have left for their feeding grounds. And just to think that they cover such great distances, mother will introduce that baby to food for 1 year only, and then mom will say, right, I've done my job now, open the door and say, right, you are now independent, you can go and face the big deep blue all on your own. And then next year the same thing happens. The next lot of females that are pregnant will come in. The mommies will only have babies every 3 to 4 years, and the reason is now quite obvious, because when she arrives here, she doesn't feed. So that milk that she gives to the little one pretty much depletes her of all her stocks, all her energies, and all her weight. She will lose pretty much as much as, and I say as much as 50% of her body weight. So that will be her being sort of arriving here like a monster, a fat whale, and leaving her like a ramp model. So she needs to take a bit of time, sort of build up all her strengths again, get the weight put on again. So take at least a year, maybe 2 years off, and then she will fall pregnant again. So the life cycle of a whale is pretty incredible. Population-wise, to think that these whales, and these were the whales that were targeted initially, they were pretty much the economy of the world. And by the turn of the previous century, 1880 to 1900, they were pretty much doom and gloom. Their numbers were between 300 and 500. They were pretty much on the brink of extinction and economically unviable to hunt them. So, of course, the whalers then targeted the other great whales, namely your blue whales, your fin whales, your sei whales, your humpback whales, your sperm whales. And then as the years went on until whaling stopped here by the mid-70s, any single whale, dolphin that they could find, that they could just squeeze every last bit of oil out of. So, I don't want to go into that now. That may be for another day. But with a population sitting now at about 23,000, 24,000, even after this bumper year, that all bodes well for tourism. And yeah, it keeps me in a job. And for all you students out there and everybody else that's never been to Hermanus, once again, let's just keep this as a big tick for a bucket list. It is an amazing experience, an amazing site. So yeah, hopefully see you all soon. I think that is enough from my side now. I think we're going to hand you over back to Maret, or back to the studio there, and then we'll just hear what happens with questions, and we'll have a little question and answer session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dave. That was an absolutely phenomenal talk. Before I open the floor to questions, I would like to ask you something. So I was sitting, it's on Jade Hastings' profile. I was sitting in that laboratory about 10 years ago, and I just had this affinity towards the ocean. And it was a trip to Hermanus, I think it was in 2012, that it just solidified that I needed to get to the ocean. So I want to ask you, what drew you to the ocean from Johannesburg? Because that's what your bio says. And I mean, I can still hear, not just by your images, but by the passion, the way you talk about it, that this was a candle that was lit and it just never burnt out. So what drew you there in the first place?
Well, I'll tell you now, it's a very big candle, this, and I don't think it's ever going to burn out. I've got here on my right-hand side, and yeah, he could probably attest to that. And I know Johan as well. I've seen him on the cliff path, even with a camera in his hand, and I know, and he knows as well what it's all about. Once they creep under your skin, I'm telling you now, there's no letting go. I arrived here 20 years ago, and I haven't stopped photographing them. And you did say in the intro, 50,000 photographs. I need to update that. We're sitting at about 1 million photographs now.
Whoa.
Just next level. 2 books have been authored, and I would imagine a 3rd book will be on its way, probably in the next 2 years, I do believe. But what actually drew me here was my wife. I met my wife in sunny Hermanus, and of course, it was a double whammy. I got my wife and I got the whales.
Yeah.
Pretty much, Walker Bay is my office. Every day I go down, and that's what I do. Take people around, show them. And, you know, you mentioned the word passion.
Yeah.
You know, going out every single day, telling pretty much the same story. You know, a lot of people say, don't you get tired of this? And honestly, just said it now. You can feel the passion, and I know there's passion in my talks. And the day I wake up and say, oh my goodness, I've now got to go and face some tourists from wherever, and you know, that's the day I will stop. But I don't see that day ever coming. So, and it's just it's so lovely to see people arrive in Hermanus for the first time, that they've never seen a whale. They don't even know what to expect. And when they see that first whale breaching or jumping out the water or slapping its tail, and I see the joy on those faces, that's what actually, you know, if I can just be that little seed planting the next seed for the next marine biologist, or, you know, just letting them, their word of mouth get out there. That's what it's all about.
No, I must say, I'm sitting in Cape Town now, but I'm from Koffsies, like I said. But even I feel like going to Hermanus right now. Yeah. I really feel like getting into the car and just going straight there right now. So I think I'm going to open the floor to questions. Lindy, are you around? But I also have 2 questions that I'd like to ask.
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Dave. It was I loved your talk, and your photographs are phenomenal. I'm sure the students have got a lot of interesting questions lined up, so I'm going to invite the first one to come to the front so that you can see them on the camera, and I'm going to hand over the microphone. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed your talk, and Aisha's right. Your passion for these animals, it just comes through.
Thank you very much.
I'm very jealous of your office setup, by the way. Okay, first student.
Good day, everybody. I just have 2 questions. One is personal, and one is just the research phase. The personal one is, did you always want to do what you're doing, or was it a successful deviation?
If I go back to school, I can remember when I was in Standard 9 or Matric, and then we did a talk, and I've always wanted to be a photographer. And my dad said I was crazy, and you know, so anyway, I went to university and studied something I probably didn't want to study. And funny enough, when I got to Hermanus 20 years ago, and I saw these whales in front of me, I just thought, now is my time. So I was always a good amateur photographer, went to the Kruger National Park and photographed birds and animals and whatever. And when I got here, I just thought, you know what? This is what I want to do. This is what I've always wanted to do. And as difficult as it is, if you've got that passion and that hunger, there are always going to be stumbling blocks in any walk of life. But this is something I really always wanted to do. Not necessarily whales, but to be a photographer and photograph wild animals. And I had amassed thousands and thousands of photographs of birds. And honestly, all my mates had thought I'd probably bring out a bird book before anything else. And I kept it all under wraps and brought out a whale book, because there were so few books, if any books on the southern right whales down in South Africa. So that was my drive. Was I think I stumbled upon something that was almost like discovering a diamond for the first time, and I really put my back into it. Financially, it cost me, because you then have to go. You don't work because you have to be on the rocks every single day, and that's pretty much where the books came through. Not that you make a lot of money out of books, but you make enough money to make a living. But it's all the other facets of photography, the guiding, so the studying up on your subject matter. And I still, to this day, through your questions, learn so much. So yeah, it's a long process, but here I am, almost 60 years of age, and I'm still hungry. And yeah, I go out every single day and photograph the whales still to this day. So yeah, if you find something that you're really passionate about, I'm telling you, just go for it. Absolutely.
I think I speak for all when I say we're so glad you found your passion and sharing it with us today. So is there...
Yeah, my second question.
So Lindy, there's a bit of an echo.
Yeah.
And it's quite soft. Would you be able to type the question? So Lindy, I wonder if it's going to be easier to type the question.
Yeah, thanks, Lindy.
Yeah. And then in the meantime, I'm going to ask Holly Magog to ask her a question while we're waiting.
Holly Magog.
Yes, well, I would like to boast, one of the few people who have come to visit Dave de Beer in Hermanus and never seen a whale. So what happened there, Dave? Anyway, that was wonderful, and just reminds me what a good storyteller you are. So I'm going to ask you to tell us 3 little stories. What are the 3 things that scientists told you the whales do that you have, through your observations, realized that they were completely wrong, that you've blown them out of the water, or that are changing as you're learning about the telemetry and using telemetry to see where they move and tagging and things?
Okay. Hi, Holly. Yes. Nice to hear your voice. Where are you now, in Kenya or?
I am indeed. I'm on a conservancy, Soisambu Conservancy in Kenya, Elementaita in the Rift Valley.
Okay, lovely, man. Yeah, we can always swap out from time to time. You get, I wouldn't say bored of the whales, but Rift Valley sounds like a great place. But
well,
yes,
all those sunbirds, the endemic sunbirds we have here.
Absolutely. No, I would love to come and visit there one day. Yeah, to answer your question, and it'll be 2 simple ones, is spy hopping, where they say the whale sticks its head out the water and then sort of rotates to get its eye out as well and sort of check the surroundings out. Now, to this day, I've never seen a whale spy hop entirely. In other words, get its eye completely out the water to now check its surroundings. They always lie on their side and just turn around and just have a look at us on the boat. And then, as far as I'm concerned, it takes too much effort. It's almost like a synchronized swimmer trying to get out the water and then keep their balance there. So I've never seen that happen. It might have just been briefly, but the way they tell the story is that they stick their heads out for minutes on end, but they don't. And then sailing is another one. Sailing is, if you look at this last photograph with the that I showed you with the bird with the tail ticking out. Now, sailing had all these, old wife tales, and they were using it for regulating their body temperature and using the wind to cool them down. And and to this day as well, I've never seen whales sail. So sailing to me is sticking your tail out. I have seen a tail stick out for like 5, 10, 20 seconds, but not for sort of minutes on end. And then through the tagging process, so that's not me seeing what scientists have got wrong, but it's what scientists have got wrong in the past, is that now through tagging, we all believe that the southern right whales, which you find in Australia, South Africa, and Argentina, we all know they go down to their feeding grounds and then come up again. But we didn't believe that they would intersperse and join forces. And through the tagging, one whale, mommy and calf, decided she was going south, and then she decided, no ways, I'm going southwest, I'm going to Argentina. So she went all the way to Argentina, which was not her grounds, and then went all the way down to the Antarctic waters, probably went and visited a couple of old cousins and friends and what have you, family members, and then worked her way back to sort of below South Africa, where she would have then come up again. But as I say, we lost contact after 362 days. But that just tells us that they might, the grass sometimes is greener on the other side. So let's go and have a look. Just like humans, you always want to go and travel or go and do your thing somewhere else. And then maybe a third thing, what would I say that would be? Oof. No, let's leave it at that.
Okay, 2 more questions. One is, how much disturbance do you think these global shipping lanes put on the movements of specifically the southern right whales, but perhaps there's other things as well?
Okay, the southern oceans, I'm speaking for South African waters now, not Australia, New Zealand, or Argentina. But if I could just look at their geographical position and our shipping lanes, I would say pretty much negligible. To a degree, maybe sound pollution, but ship strikes minimal. Fishing trawlers, yes, that is probably the indirect killing of whales as well, getting entanglements. We do have an entanglement team here and if they do a couple of disentanglements in a year, then I'd hate to know what happens on their journeys back down, because you've got the currents taking all the discarded fishing gear down south, wherever it is. And if they do get entangled in it, they're pretty much doomed.
I better start my third question because I got a tame guinea fowl here who's come to say hello, and she's rather noisy. Before she starts with her noise, do you think then the whales have social recognition? They know who the individuals are. This one's Tina, this one's Mary, this one's Bernard, this one's Gustav. Absolutely,
yeah. They are highly intelligent animals, and pretty much, I wouldn't say they know everybody, but whales that they've come into contact with, very similar to elephants, will know their family, their immediate family members, even though they get sort of shown the door after a year. I believe mom and calf will know each other till the day mom eventually dies, thinking that she would die before the calf. So that interaction and those family members, yes, they will all know each other pretty intimately, I would imagine.
Wow, well, it's incredible, Dave. It's such a pleasure to hear your stories again. Thanks for answering those.
Thank you very much, Holly. Till we meet again.
Thank you, Holly. And thank you, Dave. Dave, if that office stands, I'm in a stuffy office with the air conditioner in front of a computer. I'm also willing to swap with you. I'm going to go to the chat room now. So there's 2 questions. Let's start with the student's question, the student that just spoke. So she's asking, can whales fight climate change?
Well, I'm going to pass on that one. I don't know enough to even. Well,
I think they're affected by it, probably. Are they affected in this? Do you know if they're affected in the same way the sharks? Because I know the sharks are moving east now.
I would say, look, with their population increasing now, so they're eating more food. They are defecating more, obviously putting, I reckon, more carbon. Their carbon footprint is a lot stronger. So, but not my field of expertise whatsoever. But yes, to oxygenate that water with more whales in in circulation, and I'm talking not just this particular species, but all whales. But no, I'm rather going to pass on this one.
Okay.
Aisha, may I make a comment there?
Yes, is it Johan?
Yes.
You can't
So
see you. Yes.
that healthy ecosystems tend to absorb more carbon, and as part of a healthy ecosystem, the whale will play a role. It's probably a keystone species.
Yeah.
I would think.
I would agree with you.
Yeah,
My
so
5 cents.
if I can just add to that now, if you look at the whales' food consumption of plankton, of the crustaceans that they do eat, a lot of that goes in, that gets defecated, is then fed on again by the very, very creatures that they've eaten. So there is a little bit of a life cycle in
Food
that
cycle.
So a symbiotic relationship between food and the actual eater of the plankton.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, with more plankton, you see, if you kill off the whales, you get too much plankton, and then that can disrupt everything as well. So as Johan has just said, if you've got a healthy environment there, especially with the whales coming back to their former numbers, and if you look at the other great whales, the blue whales, the fin whales, and the humpback whales have really surpassed even the southern right whales. So our southern oceans are actually in a very, very good state, I would say. Bar plastics. That is the only thing we don't really know what or how to put or to quantify the plastic, what's happening underwater. You know, we can look on the surface, fine, but it's what's happening underneath the water that we don't know.
Well, that's good to hear, Bob. Like, plastics aside, it's nice to hear that the ocean's in a healthy space, because we like literally don't hear that every day.
Yeah. So,
okay.
If I just answer it, so just Walker Bay itself, which is a very small, a very small part of the ocean, but we are the southern tip of Africa, and of course we get the nutrient-rich cold currents that come through. And if you look, just Walker Bay has 64 confirmed shark species. Then over the last 20 years, and it's 20 years in the bigger scheme of things is nothing, but I have seen a increase in dolphin traffic and in the other whale, the Brutus whale. And the reason they are here is because fishing, the bay has been closed off to commercial fishermen. So your anchovies and your sardines and pilchards have all flourished now. And I'm telling you now, if you come here in the months of February, March, and April, you will see, everybody thinks the whales are only here from June till December or end of November. But then the Brutus whales are here so active from December, but then really active from February, March, and April, which 15 to 20 years ago, I never saw a Brutus whale. So that in itself, this part of the ocean is looking pretty good.
Okay, so I'll make a bucket list for February. But on that note, so you said that the natural predators does not necessarily include sharks.
No, not at all.
Even the great white or
no.
Oh.
You look at a white, 5 meters is a big great white. Yes, people will argue and say 5.5 meters and 6 meters. So let's just say there are 6 meter great whites out there. When the baby is born at 6 meters and it's got a 15, 16 meter mother next to its side with a 6 meter tail that I have seen ferociously being slapped up and down. So the shark is also clever. You know, the old adage, and I use this in every single talk of mine, don't bring a penknife to a gunfight. You're going to lose. So the calf, let's say, was separated from mom, obviously a different story. Of course, the sharks will take the little one out. It just won't have, because more than one shark, they will just quickly eliminate that whale. But what I've, my observations, those calves stick to mom like glue.
Okay, the Velcro story. So before I go to the another question from Cynthia Weber in the chat, I just want to ask, do the whales ever give birth to twins? Does that happen? Because it seems quite exhausting for the mother.
Okay, so
to have just one.
For 20 years now, I've been telling you the exact same story about they will only have a single calf, and then that's what makes wildlife so interesting and life so interesting, because there's always a little curveball. But this is more the exception than the norm. This year, and forgive me, I think it was off the coast of Australia, a humpback whale gave birth to a set of twins. or a pair of twins or twins. And the problem with that is now you've got two very hungry little calves. And now mommy has to really know her story, and she either is going to reject one, or she's going to take on the two at the price of her losing her life as well. Because, you know, a young southern right whale of 4 or 5 months old can consume 400 to 600 liters of milk a day. Now, just imagine what a dairy she has to produce that type of milk, or that amount. So that little calf, now you've got another calf that is as hungry as anything. So it's just going to, ultimately, I think what would happen is one of those calves would be called the Cain and Abel phenomenon. Yeah, one will die off or be rejected.
So was she being watched? Do you know what she did?
I must, funny
That
enough,
individual.
I've got it was actually sent to me by Dr. Vermeulen, so she is head of the whale unit here. So yes, I will follow up on that, and then maybe later on give you results. In all the years, we did have one southern right whale that adopted a youngster. I pretty much put it all under the table or under the carpet, and then end of the season, for Christmas present, I gave my wife a flight over the bay, not expecting to see any. What did we see? Everybody that had been talking about this mommy with the adopted calf. So 24th December, there was mommy with two calves, one small and one big. And in my book, I actually took a photograph, and it's not the greatest photograph, but it still managed to make it into the book. And I then saw that mother with the two calves on the 6th of January, which is so late in the year for her to go back and feed. But she probably was a strong female that probably said, you know what, I'm going to try every single effort, or put it all together, try and get them both to survive. And the fact that I saw her on the 6th of January, and that was the last I ever saw of a whale. That's the latest I've actually seen a mother and calf in Walker Bay. And I do believe that little calf, and that's always those little runts of a litter, even though this was now discarded, is probably a flourishing and very strong whale today. So yes, it just will not, it will not work. Nature works it out. You have one baby and that's it.
Well, it's a heartwarming story about the calf. I do wonder what happened to the calf's real biological mother.
Yeah, I just keep it positive. So
Yeah.
died, but the calf survived. So we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's a very heartwarming story. So let me get to Cynthia Weber's question. She asked, why is breaching so important?
Okay, Cynthia, fantastic question. And I don't care what any marine biologist or scientist, and I'll go back to Holly's question. This is the reason they breach. And you're all listening now. From that young age, remember I said to you, the whale's tail does not have any bone structure in it. From day one, mommy will go and do probably 8, 9, 10 violent breaches in a semicircle around the baby. That little calf is so bewildered and doesn't know what's going on. I mean, it is. Can you imagine the 65-ton whale jumping around like a mad mommy? And then, by the time that calf gets to about 4 weeks, 4.5, 5 weeks of age, that little calf can do or make its first breach. And it's just because mom every single day does a little bit of oscillating swimming with the calf. She does a few breaches, and then eventually that calf now has twigs on that. This is what my mother wants to do. And in so doing, that will help strengthen the tail, make sure that the baby's got coordination and strength to get itself out the water. And then mommy can say, for the next 3 months, I'm going to now work this little baby, rather than have a baby that can't breach and just feed it milk and it just becomes this big fat slob that is just going to die anyway. So that is why they breach. And just like a kid riding a bicycle or a student with a cell phone in its hand, they just love it.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I'm thinking, is it the horses that when they're born, they have to stand up? Because if they don't, and then they won't have that muscle memory.
That's it.
I think I'm right. Kirsten's gone, yeah.
Yeah,
it makes sense to work those muscles from an early age.
Sink or swim, yeah.
No, that's also fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you, Cynthia. So there's another one from Jared Loudon. Have you ever seen any deformities in juveniles during your work with these whales?
Sure. Well, one, what we thought was a deformity ended up not being a deformity, but I sent a photograph that I took in 2009 of a whale that looked like it had a severe, its whole head was covered in hardened skin. It almost looked like a thick paste of let's say, of acne, but it really looked bad. And I sent it through to Dr. Peter Best, who's now passed on, but he was the doyen, or he still is the doyen on his research on southern right whales. And 2 months later, of course, the man obviously has a lot of work to do. He phoned me, and I mean, I nearly fell off the chair when he has Dr. Peter Best phoning little Dave de Beer from Hermanus. And yes, he said to me, I got your photograph, and I just want to say thanks for the photograph, but it was probably just a young little skin sort of rash that would eventually work its way off. And the interesting fact was, of course, with digital photography now, you can tell the time date stamp when the photograph was taken. And he looked at mine, and he actually said to me, he had photographed that whale 9 days before in Mossel Bay. So there's obviously was nothing wrong with that whale and its deformity. One other deformity is a tail that didn't look like it had been chopped up by a propeller or anything. The one side of the fluke sort of there was only half of it left. It had almost like a ball at the end. And interesting enough, I photographed that in 2007 or 2008, and then somebody else on the whaleboat photographed that last year. And we did our own little DNA analysis, put them together, and said, yeah, that's the very same whale. So, of course, even with deformities, just as in humans, I mean, you actually become stronger with whether you loss of eyesight or loss of hearing or a shortened leg or no arm, you still carry on, and you become a fully functional whale or person for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah, we're learning a lot from them, a lot from the mothers, a lot from the individuals. So Maret just messaged me to tell me that that was the last question, because we have to go to our next session in 5 minutes time. But again, thank you so much for the talk today, Dave. It was really fascinating, very phenomenal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all the work that you do. Yeah.
Much appreciated. And I won't be changing my office for your office, eh?
But I might come visit your office soon.
You're more than welcome.
I'm so tempted. Okay, well, so thank you very much. Lindy, can you hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Hear you?
Okay, so should we just slot into the giraffe one, because there's 5 minutes? Because that's what we're asking.
Yes.
Do you need a? Okay.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. We can carry on with the giraffe. Thank you so much again, Dave and Johan, all the way from Hermanus. I really enjoyed your talk a lot. Sorry for the technical issues on our side. And Aisha, you're going to have to get in line. You've got to sympathize with me from Bloemfontein. You're at least in Cape Town. If anybody is going to swap offices with Dave, someone from the Free State, I get first dibs.
I think that's up to Dave.
If there are any other questions, I'll just give you my email address. You're more than welcome to even WhatsApp me or just email me. Johan or Maret can give you my details. Or even phone me if you want to.
Okay.
I have answering your questions.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lindy. I think we're just going to immediately then move. Emmanuel Ngubi, I see you are in already. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Hi, Andrew.
Hello.
Emmanuel, we can
Hello.
hear you. We can hear you. We can't see you yet.
You can hear me?
I can hear Emmanuel.
Right, then I'm here with my colleague Victor. We'd like to welcome you to this virtual tour of the Giraffe Center. I'll do the introduction, then Victor will talk much about the giraffes, how they live, what they eat, how to tell them apart from each other, and any other interesting facts about the giraffes.
Okay, we're looking forward to it.
Right, so as you know, the water giraffe has been very interesting, very fascinating to most people. And giraffe has been a unique animal to understand and to study. As you know, when actually the first giraffes were taken to Rome, people were a bit amazed by the size and the color of the giraffe, and they thought a giraffe was more of a cross between a camel and a leopard. So they said this is an animal which is tall like a camel, but it looks like a leopard. So they named it the giraffe, which means such giraffe is derived from an Arabic word zirafa, which means one who is gentle in nature. But the first people to see giraffes in Europe, they said it was a camel which looked like a leopard. So it has been hard to classify giraffes, and currently we're still retaining one species of giraffe with about 9 different subspecies, but still there's a new proposal at the IUCN where we might reclassify the giraffes once again into 4 distinct species, because Giraffe Conservation Foundation, together with other interested giraffe scientists, have been able to do more of a DNA analysis in the lab, and they're saying some of the subspecies might be closely related in terms of their DNA.
Okay.
Now, welcome. Once again, I'm Victor Ochieng Ratego. So I want to welcome you to the session where we are going to talk about the giraffe ecology. Mr. Emmanuel has elaborated much on different types of giraffes that we have in Kenya, especially talking about the Maasai giraffes, talking about the reticulated giraffes, and also talking about the Rothschild giraffe. For us to understand them better, I will go to the photos so that everyone gets to understand them right. So down there, we have all the 3 types of giraffes that we have in Kenya. Starting on far left, I'll start with Maasai giraffes, and they have a distinct pattern. Get it closer. So they have irregular dark chocolate brown patterns, and these giraffes are distributed southern part of the equator in Kenya, but also extending to other countries, that is Kenya, but as she goes in South Africa. The second type of giraffe, probably I'll move to the reticulated giraffe. I'll talk about the Rothschild giraffes last. These ones are distributed north part of the equator in Kenya here. And they have defined brick red net-like patterns, as you can see them. They're documented to be the shortest giraffe, but remember I'm comparing them with other giraffes, not to human height. So they have red net-like markings, just as shown in the picture. Then lastly, I want to talk about these being the last bit of them, because this is the most endangered subspecies of giraffes that we have in the world. And these are the giraffes that we also offer breeding ground for them here at the sanctuary at Giraffe Center. We call them the Rothschild giraffe, with the brown patches, dark spots developing inside those brown patches, and they have no marking from their knee down to their hooves. We'll see live these giraffes, but the other 2 you're not going to see them, because these are now the giraffes that we have here at Giraffe Center, so we'll be able to see them. Though at the moment I'm just showing a closer picture for us to understand the difference between the 3 types of giraffes that we have in Kenya. People also call them, these are the giraffes that wear white socks. So they are white socks giraffes because of the white legs from the knee down to their hoof. In terms of the population, Maasai giraffes are the most populated. From last census that was done in Kenya, if you visit Kenya Wildlife Service website in Kenya, you're going to get the numbers from last census that was done. But more of concern are the Rothschild giraffe, which at the moment in Kenya, we have approximately 970 breeding herds across all the protected areas. Reticulated giraffes from last census was the leading at around 4,500, then followed closely by Maasai giraffes. Initially, Maasai giraffes have been the most populated, but because of climate change, which has resulted into a number of challenges, and also majorly the challenge of habitat encroachment and poaching has resulted to their numbers decreasing. So having shown you the pictures, we'll go live to where we have the giraffes. That's Mr. Manuel ahead, so don't worry. So at the moment we have 10 giraffes in the center. 5 of them are adults. The remaining 5 are calves. Our oldest giraffe is called Betty. Betty is standing there in between. Betty is 23 years now. The giraffe that's close to us, this is the famous Daisy. Not the first Daisy, but this Daisy 4, because we have been having series of daisies. So this is our Daisy 4. It's an iconic name because the first giraffe to be brought at the center for breeding program was named Daisy after the daisy flowers. So we have retained that name ever since 1979. And this is one of our daisies, Daisy 4. She's a good breeder. She has been able to, since she was brought here, we won't be lucky to see the baby giraffes or the calves. For at the moment, we only have the adult giraffe close to us. The breeding herd, Daisy, who doesn't like children. So when you visit Giraffe Center, remember, don't come with children close to Daisy. She acts aggressively, or sometimes she grabs food from your hands. Remember, they are herbivores, but they might tend to bite when you keep teasing them by not giving them pellets. Because of that hunger, they might decide to come for it forcefully. So just drop it there. Okay, so we are talking about our breeding herd, the 3 that we have here. And you're talking about Daisy being the giraffe that's close to us. At the moment, she's 15 years old. It's one of our best breeding herd that we have. I was giving a description about Daisy earlier, saying that she might be a good breeder, but remember, she doesn't like being pet. I think you can see how she's behaving when people are trying to pet her. She's also displays aggressiveness towards children. So children are not allowed to get close to her. What do Daisy do when children get close? She normally have a hard breath, and sometimes she tends to grab food from their hands. The next giraffe after Daisy is Betty. Betty's a 23-year-old. She's our oldest giraffe at the center. So far, even the way she's feeding, she's so calm, and this is a result of old age. Just try to get close to Daisy, into Betty. So this is Betty here. You can have a look at the body markings. They are kind of dark and not as smooth as you look at Daisy. So you see the difference? So this is so old. Betty is too old. That's how she looks. 23-year-old. The next we have Salma. Now, this is the most aggressive giraffe that we have. At the center, no touching, just feeding. Salma, at the moment, is 11 years. She'll be turning 12 next month. She's also a good breeder. And remember, Salma is the eldest daughter of Betty. So Betty is feeding close to her daughter here. The babies have gone, so you'll not be able to see the baby. Last time we saw Eddie, today Eddie's gone, he's not close by. But because of after feeding on a lot of pellets, they have to go and get another food, that's the leaves. Because remember, here we're just feeding them on pellets, the Lucerne pellets, and also we have the cereal pellets. So after feeding on cereal pellets, they have to go and also get the browse, the normal browse that they normally have to feed on. So how does our breeding program work? Giraffe Center offers a sanctuary or provides a sanctuary for Rothschild giraffe to breed, and then they are released back to the wild. So the adults that we have are breeders, they never get to go out, but the offsprings that we get from them, we stay with them until they are 3 to 4 years old, and then we release them back to the wild, but we remain here with the breeders. How do we get breeders to come to the center? Those best offsprings, most of the giraffes that are brought here, they're normally those ones that have shown, or probably their moms, or the bulls and the cow in the wild have good offsprings. So with those good offsprings, they are brought here after being monitored closely and showing an
Please don't headbutt me. I don't have the energy to scream.
let's have a look and just move a little bit so I leave people space. So those ones with offsprings with good breed are the ones that are brought here to do breeding, and then the offspring are released back to the wild. So probably we talk about the giraffes. Now, initially we talked about the types of giraffes. Remember, the giraffes might look different in terms of the body markings and also in terms of the genes, depending on the researcher's outcome. But most of the giraffes have been known to display similar characteristics. Like number one, if you look at the height, depending on the habitat where giraffes live, it dictates how tall they can be. The shortest giraffe that has been documented are the giraffes that live in dry areas, like in Kenya here, the reticulated giraffes. So being that those habitats are shrublands and probably deserts or semi-deserts, semi-arid, you find trees don't grow much tall. So as an adaptation, they can grow up to a height of around 12 to 14 feet. That's the maximum they can grow. That's for the reticulated giraffe. For the average height giraffes like the Rothschild giraffe, they can grow up to a height of around 14 to 16 feet of height. For those ones that live in areas that probably forested or probably have habitats that has a mixed up of woodland, forest and grassland, like Maasai giraffes, you find that they are taller than the average height Rothschild and the shorter reticulated giraffe, and they can grow up to around a height of 15 to 18 feet. That's the height they can go. But that's an average height when talking about all the giraffes. But looking at the gender again, you find that males grow taller than females. But also, being that they're in the hierarchy, they're the leaders or the team leaders of the group, you find they need to be tall as an adaptation to help them see danger or see the predators from a distance. But also because of an adaptation of mating, they have to mount on a female. And that means that a male need to be taller than a female. So talking about, as I was talking about the average, remember, males grow to maximum height, but females will be slightly shorter than males. A baby giraffe, when it's born, has a height of around 1 meter to 1.5 meter tall. And this height is as a result because they have to reach the mammary glands of their cow, or probably of their mom, which are the female giraffe. Most of the time you find they are tall, but most of the time they don't have that stability of standing. So they always, as time goes by, they will not grow tall, but they just find stability to stand still and be tall certain height. So as time goes by, they start growing to a maximum height. So giraffe has a gestation period of also 15 months, but these are also animals known to hold pregnancies. So they have an approximate gestation period of 15 to 17 months. They are known to hold pregnancies for 1 to 2 months, but they don't exceed that. But holding pregnancy also is as a result of how nature depicts the life. So during rainy season, most of the time you find they don't hold pregnancies because they know there is browse for the young ones when they are born, and also for them. And also when you find them probably roaming in areas with high predation, that also dictates whether they need to hold pregnancies to look for safe areas to give birth. Now, giraffes have been known to have poor mothering ability, and thus you find half of their calves when they are born, most of them don't survive. You find when giraffes give birth, they tend to leave responsibilities to younger ones to help them take care of calves as they go out to browse. Though they tend to hide the calves, but hiding for them, sometimes it's opposite, because leaving the responsibility for the calf, other calves to take care of a younger calf, sometimes ends up the calves being predated on by the predators. And the major predators are lions, leopards, cheetah, and more prominently to the calves, you find hyenas. Giraffes are known to have a very long tongue, as you can see, Daisy's tongue. Just have a look at Daisy's tongue. And the tongue can be 30 to 40 centimeters long. Just looking at how long the jaws are, and the tongue is still coming out. So the tongue is also prehensile. What I mean, it can coil easily. When they're getting leaves, they coil the tongue and pluck leaves. But when they're getting pellets, just look at how it's coiling. So it peaks and then it turns inside. So being that these are herbivores, and most probably they are ruminants, you won't see them chewing the pellets now, but they have 4-chambered stomach. And now the first stomach is just keeping food temporarily. Then they are going to regurgitate the pellets or leaves, chew, and then re-swallow. So you won't see them chewing now, but they're just swallowing. Good. What's the lifespan of a giraffe? So giraffes also have a different lifespan, comparing the life in captivity and in the wild. So in the wild, they live shorter lifespan, an average of 10 to 15 years. But in captivity, they live longer. So they can live up to 20 to 25 years. Because as I've told you earlier, our oldest giraffe is 23. That's Betty. So in captivity, they live longer. But also their lifespan is dictated by how much are they going to give birth. In captivity, some of them tend to live shorter, especially the females, because they give birth at a closer range, being that the number of females and the number of male, it's always dictated. That means you find one male will be close to a number of females, and this will dictate that the females will be giving birth at a closer range. This normally weakens them much. And if you look at that in the wild, you find that one male can probably be with a number of females, around 50 females. And this you find these females will not be giving birth at a closer range because the male has a choice, a number of females to choose from. So you'll find a female will take time to nurse a young one before again it conceives. But in captivity, being that the male is always available with a few number of females, the females keep on getting pregnant at a shorter time. Like what we have here, we only have 4 females with 1 dominant male. And remember, you find that these females, they get pregnant at probably in a season, all of them at the same time. So when they give birth, the male does not give them enough time to nurse the babies before again they get pregnant. But generally in the wild, you find that one male will take care of around 2 to 50 females. Giraffes also, being that they're big, they weigh much. So males, as I was talking earlier, I said males probably have, they are taller, and that also reflects on their weight. So a male can weigh around 1 ton to 1.5 ton. Females weigh mostly around 500 kilos to 800, with babies born weighing around 60 to 100 kilos. They also run fast, just sprinting for a short time. So they sprint for 56 kilometers per hour. And being that they are heavy animals, sprinting just takes a shorter time. And then now they start running slowly. When they walk, they catwalk. So legs of the same side of the body move at the same time, just like a camel. Probably for some of you have seen camels walking. But when they're running, it's different. The legs in the front always move at the same time, and the hind legs interlap. So those are just a few facts about the giraffe. And down there you can see a pumba. So here we have pumbas and giraffes. They are friends. And probably some of you who know history of pumbas, they are forgetful animals. And I call them pumbas because I presume most of us have watched Lion King movie and they have seen the warthogs with the character Pumba. So here they are friends, but same applies in the wild. So being that they have poor memories, they depend on giraffes to detect predators. So they keep on following giraffes, both in the wild and even here. So you're going to see we have a number of them. They always come for pellets. There he is. So not to bother you with much information, this Daisy leaving now after realizing all the people who are around don't have pellets. They're just taking photos. Now, I'll invite Emmanuel if he has anything to add before I take back the session to you. And thank you so much. So Emmanuel, welcome.
Thank you, Victor. That brief about the giraffes, their facts and the like. For me, just to add, just to remind everybody, the giraffes are currently facing a silent extinction, and it's our duty from whichever corner of the world we are in to work together to be able to save them for the future. Otherwise, if we don't act, and international bodies or our local government does not pay much attention to the giraffes, in a few years or a few decades to come, we might be talking about an extinct species, because we're saying they are facing a silent extinction because nobody's talking about their current welfare. Nobody's talking about, the number we've lost over the last 4 decades. We have lost more than 30 to 40% of the total giraffe population, which used to exist 4 decades back. So it's upon us to stick our necks out for the giraffes, see how best we can be able to create awareness, because without changing people's mindsets, without changing policymakers' mindset, then they might not value the giraffes as a charismatic species within the world. And if we all work together, then we are assured of the future of the giraffe. So thank you so much. Nice evening. So I return the session back to the host.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel and Andrew. That was very interesting. So I don't see the reticulated one there. Are they not able to hear me?
At the Giraffe Center?
I don't remember. You kind of
Yes, is there a
Hello?
reticulated one? Hi, Emmanuel. Are you
We
able to hear
only
me?
keep the Rothschild giraffes because they are endangered.
Ah, okay.
So the other 2 subspecies, they cannot be brought to the Giraffe Center because they will end up interbreeding with the Rothschild giraffes, and we might get an
Oh,
hybrid, but that means in the future we might lose 1 out of the 3 subspecies which are found in the country. So reticulated giraffes, they are one of the special 5 animals in the country which are found in the Northern Hemisphere. Like the grevy's zebras, the Belisaurus, Gerenax, Somali ostriches, they don't cross equator coming into the Southern Hemisphere. That's why we call them the specialists of the Northern Hemisphere.
yeah. So I wanted to ask, with the question of breeding, you said there's 1 male to 50 females.
Victor mentioned we can have 1 male for about 20 to 50 females. Like the imbalas. Imbalas also have the same characteristic. But what happens with the giraffes, once they mate and the mating is successful, then the bull will never pursue that female until it gives birth after the 15 months gestation period. So the bull can serve as many females as 20 or close to 50, because unlike primates, then they don't need to keep on chasing after all the females. They will only pursue the one which is on it, and if the mating is successful, then they don't need to mate with that female again until it gives birth. So that's the correct ratio out in the world. So you can have, we have 2 distinct groups of giraffes groupings. We have the maternal, the breeding herd, which has 1 bull for about 20 to 50. Then young males, after they reach maturity, probably Victor might have missed that one, they'll be chased out of the main maternal herd and they go join a group of bachelors. And they keep on fighting with each other to determine the hierarchy. And the strongest bull will be the one to try and challenge the dominant one from the maternal herd. If he succeeds, then he will take over the breeding rights. And the big bull will not be allowed to join the boys, or he won't be allowed to join the bachelors for that case.
Okay, and so each giraffe gives, the female gives birth to 1 offspring.
That's not too bad. Twins are very rare. That's how I like to put it. And in case, actually, we were lucky last year within Nairobi National Park, the female was sighted which had given birth to twins. But like elephants, sometimes what I've read in the literature, then the mother might neglect the weak calf and take care of the, the strong one. But I know from what I've seen at the giraffes and at the years I've worked with the giraffes, twins are very rare. So they give birth after 15 months gestation period, and the mom will give birth while standing. So the young one will have like 6 feet down to the ground, but that shock will help the young one to breathe. And after 30 minutes, it can almost keep to the speed of the mother, because it's more survival for the fetus. It had to be fast enough to run away from enemies.
Yeah. But I'm asking, say, if it gives birth to one offspring, would that not, and 1 bull mates with 50, up to 50 females, would that not lead to a genetic bottleneck?
It happens just like the imbalance. By the time the first or the second generation are coming to maturity at the age of 5 years, another stronger male will have emerged from, the bachelor herd
Okay.
and overbreeding, right? So nature has its own way of
Okay.
trying to control the inbreeding. At the Giraffe Center, what we usually do, we translocate the offsprings once they attain the age of 2 years. So we take them to a place which are the members of the Rothschild giraffes. We can't take them to Nairobi National Park being so close because they'll end up interbreeding with the Maasai giraffes. So nature does it automatically. And even at the Giraffe Center, like Daisy, Betty, these are giraffes which have been brought from other areas within the country where we have Rothschild to try and stabilize the gene pool. But out in the wild, nature will do it automatically. So the bigger bull will be kicked out before even or his daughters or the first offspring or the second ones attain maturity period for breeding.
Okay, no, I understand now. Thank you. So I need to go to the University of the Free State, the laboratory there, to ask for questions.
We'll be waiting.
Lindy, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me, Aisha?
I can hear you.
All right. Thanks so much for the presentation. And it's so wonderful to sit here in Bloemfontein and see the animals live. So I've got 3 students lined up. So I'm going to hand over the microphone to them. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. I would like to ask, what are the key behavioral and physiological adaptations that help giraffes in the savanna environment survive?
Can I go first?
Yes.
So giraffe, they have a unique adaptation. Their legs are so tall, their necks are also so tall, so they can reach higher height compared to other species of animals. So when it comes to browsing or to grazing, then they have an advantage because of their long neck and their long legs. Giraffes also, when you look at I hope Victor can be able to point out that in between their front legs, they have extra skin folds to help them to spread their legs apart when they go down to drink. They also got a long tongue, which is 45 centimeters long. The tongue is prehensile, so that it can be able to reach out for the branches of the acacia, thorny plants, and rip off the leaves. And also, when you look at the upper lip, I hope Victor can point out that it's folded to the inside to protect them from the sharp thorns of the acacia. And then their tongue, if you can notice the color, it's more dark purple to serve as a sunscreen and protect them from the radiation of the sun. So they can also go for about as more of a physiology for about a week without having to drink from the rivers, because by eating the leaves early in the morning and browsing on the acacia leaves, they contain a lot of moisture, almost 80% of moisture, and that can keep a giraffe going for a week without having to drink much. So giraffes also have got an excellent eyesight. They can see quite far, almost 3 kilometers away from where they are. So they can be able to sight their enemies from quite far and be able to run away.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Question I have for you: how do giraffes migrate across long distance, and what factors influence their migration patterns?
Okay, giraffes, I think a few years back, we never thought giraffes are long migratory animals. But through research which is being done by the Giraffe Conservation Foundation in partnership with the Kenya Wildlife Service, and also in Namibia, I know they are doing some work with the government wildlife authority there. By using the GPS collars, we've been able to realize giraffes can make some long movement within their ranges. And mainly the males will move much looking for areas of good browse. So sometimes they're just moving around to see whether they can be able to find their way into a new, territory where they can have some breeding rights, where females are not, well served by other bulls, the dominant bulls. So they venture around much into deeper sometimes habitats. I've been doing research in Bruma National Park, and we found out that the bull giraffes or the male giraffes will make long distance movement in search of water, in search of good habitats where we have plenty of food for them. And sometimes they're also running away from competition from other young bulls because of the territorial fights amongst the males. So that has been key influential factors in regards to the giraffe movement within their different habitats.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. I just want to
Good
hear
afternoon.
giraffes in the wild.
Mhm.
What kind of social bonds do they form with each other, if any? What social interactions do they have?
Okay, giraffes, they are very social animals, but they are not strongly bonded like the elephants and lions. So sometimes they associate for security reasons because being together, unity is strength, and sometimes because of the predators that helps them to be able to, sight the lions and probably be able to warn each other. It happens that even when they go to drink, they never do it as a group. They'll never sit as a group. Some will keep watch of their enemy. Also, Victor mentioned giraffes, they have a unique way of mothering their young ones. They don't move together with their little ones like many other animals, but they leave them together to socialize. They more have nursery of young ones. The big calves will be assumed to take care of the very young ones, but it also exposes most of the young ones because giraffes will lose about 3/4 of their newborns during the first year. And I said there are also times where males you find they tend to associate together. So that helps them to be able to move together in a strong bond, looking for browse. And in such an eventuality, if predators try to attack, then they can be able to protect themselves and protect each other quite well. So the strong bonds, the bull will be there to provide protection to the young ones and to mate with the females. Young females will tend to associate together. And probably before I forget, when one of the females is about to give birth, it will seclude itself away from the main maternal herd, but it will be joined by 2 or 3 other females who will serve as, like the midwives, or they are there to provide the security to the young ones, or sorry, to the mama who is in labor, and also to protect the young ones once it's born by the mother.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, sorry, one more question. Giraffes look like very intelligent creatures. Compared to primates, how would you rank their intelligence?
Wow. I've seen at the center. Probably I might rate them a little bit lower because I've worked with them for some years. Victor mentioned, I know the giraffes, they know us, like the keepers who stay with them, either people working under the tourism and conservation education department. They also know very well our animal keepers. We call them our sanctuary security team. And every time we move close, they will just stand and just stare at you to move closer to them or to keep their distance. But I've seen in cases where sometimes they might charge at you because they are emotional. But I know, like the giraffes, which head back at the center. To us, the people who work with them closely, they push me with their heads or with their necks. But to the guests, they will knock them a bit. That means they recognize us and they know like we are their close associates, and that's why they cannot knock me hard like the way they'll do to you. I've seen sometimes they might remember you, but I've been out doing research in Muir Game Reserve where we introduced a few giraffes there, and even if I go there, I've not seen, I can recognize those giraffes, but they don't recognize me even if I call after their names, which we used to use at the giraffe center after 2 or probably 1 year. They'll keep away from me. They won't come close to trusting me. But it happened, Daisy, I think the first giraffe to be brought here, I think she was a little bit intelligent because she could follow, like Betty, the lady who started the giraffe center. Even if they walked in the forest for their nature walk, she could closely follow them. And sometimes, like even when she disappeared in close to the Nairobi National Park and found her way back to the center, she could move straight to the house, the giraffe manor, where she was raised by Betty. And sometimes she could give her hugs and kisses. So that means she was attached and fond of Betty, the founder of the giraffe center. I'm not sure whether Victor can be able to pinpoint the giraffe manor from the distance where we are standing. So that's the house where the first giraffes were brought, and it's a place where Giraffe Center was born. Today, it's a different hotel and a different entity, the Safari Collection. So you can stay there, and whenever you stay, the giraffes will come close, and you can even feed them from right inside the hotel.
Thank you so
Am I
much.
on?
You still on? Lindy, are there more questions?
I just want to say thank you for the talk. It was really nice.
Thank you and welcome.
I just want to ask a question before I go to the chat, because there's 2 questions from Eric in the chat. So I saw that there's many theories as to why the giraffe has a long neck. One is a mutual growth with Akasha, I think. And then there was another one that said it's for the necking with the males. Is that a young one? Sorry.
This is a youngest, actually. This is Betty's last born. It's only 10 months old.
So Betty had a daughter that was there earlier.
Yes,
Is it
and
this one's
still
sister?
Betty and daughter. This is called Holly.
Oh, is Holly still? Is Holly
Holly.
McGock still in?
Yeah, this is Holly.
No, she's not.
Trying to
Oh,
move close
okay.
to Sako.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Betty's daughter.
Last born daughter, yes. And Salma is the first born daughter.
Oh, that's amazing. It's a pity that the other one left.
Yes.
Okay, so back to the question, is the long neck for the purpose of necking between males, or is it because is it to like you spoke now about the viewing and the way the giraffe can see really far? Is the long neck part of that?
If
What
I
is your
base it
assumption?
on evolution, then it might be an adaptation. It's part of the adaptation, because they're saying giraffe evolution has taken more than 30 million years. And in the old days, we used to have giraffes in all the continents of the world. And they were the size of our normal domestic goats at home. But as the climate changed, food became scarce, as a way of adaptation, then, the Darwin's theory again, their necks became more elongated to be able to eat or to browse quite other compared to other herbivores. But I've seen females will have thin necks compared to bulls. Bulls will have very strong necks. So the second principle might apply, because they use their necks for fighting with each other. So they need strong necks with muscles which can stand the heavy blows they get from their opponents.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you think it's a combination of all?
That's true.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go to the chat quickly, and then I'm going to go to Andrew. So in the chat I'll read one question at a time. Both are from Eric. Do giraffes have breeding seasons?
Seasons, okay.
I don't know if it's sessions. Breeding
So
seasons.
what I know, seasons. So giraffes can breed throughout the year, but it happens, I think, the female will mature at the age of 5 years. The male's almost the same, but it might take the males another 2 years because they have to join the bachelors first before they can try to establish themselves as the dominant bull within a given maternal herd. Once they give birth, I know they take about 15 months, but they are not to extend to 18 months, depending on availability of food and other prevailing conditions during the time when they are due. So most of the time, I say the mating season is not definite, so they can breed throughout the year, but they tend to synchronize the time of giving birth with the onset of the rains. That's why when you go out in most of the protected areas, a week or 2 weeks to the rain season, and during the first 2 weeks of the rain season, you will get plenty of young giraffe cows because it's somehow a way to increase chances of survival of their young ones, because even if predators are going to attack them, then many will be able to survive to adults. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Then there's a two-part question as well from Eric. In giraffe courtship behavior is relatively, if giraffe courtship behavior is relatively rare, how can one tell that this is common sexual behavior? And then the
Come
second
again?
part, I wonder if you can rephrase the question, the first part of your questions, Eric. But I'm going to go on with the second part. How many Rothschild's population in the wild are there in the wild, and how is their success compared to those in captivity?
So giraffes in captivity, they can survive quite well and they live quite long. As Victor mentioned, about 30 years in captivity, but 25 in the wild, because even at the giraffe center, during periods of drought, then we buy hay, we can buy lucerne and supplement whenever they fall sick. We attend to them, and so long as we have a young bull within the breeding herd, then we've seen it. It has been quite a success, because like right now, all the females have young ones, they are still nursing, and they are still pregnant once again. So by next year, we are expecting newborns once again. I've seen giraffes, they are very, well adapted animals to their environment. But the last two drought periods have been quite severe, because like last year in northern parts of Kenya, we lost quite a number of giraffes to the drought, because that was the worst drought to be experienced in the country over the last 40 years. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I am going to ask Andrew to unmute. Hi again, Andrew.
Thanks very much, Aisha. I must say thank you to, to the two gentlemen out there. My question is just that in this day and age, we know that from every sphere and every education and training and so forth, do you gentlemen have a program maybe for the community around there? Maybe when you have visitors at your place there, and maybe you train them, to create a base for tomorrow, so that when you are not there, someday they can take over and they keep the momentum.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for your question. And although we avoided doing much of the Giraffe Center background history and the programs, Giraffe Center, I think our main mandate and our focus is to try to promote conservation by changing people's mindset. When Betty and George started the Giraffe Center, they dedicated this center to the Kenyan going youth. So students come in for free. We educate them about conservation. They have a chance to come up close with the giraffes, and they have a chance to visit some of our micro project areas where they learn hands-on activities on how they can promote conservation. We also run a program for the poor children within the slums of Nairobi, where we, on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're able to select about 48 students and 2 teachers from a given school within the poor areas of Nairobi. We take them to Nairobi National Park, bring them here, and take them to Mamba Village, and we serve them hot lunch. We know these poor children is a big treat for them, but indirectly, we are using that as an opportunity to help change their mindset, to change their attitudes towards the way they relate with nature. And we have a very vibrant student internship program. Actually, the gentleman who is next to Betty, that's one of our current interns. Victor and myself have grown through the same program. So we've been here as interns, but as time goes by, opportunities arose, and Giraffe Center gave us the first priority because we say we are creating a pool of, future conservation leaders within this country. And when you go to Kenya Wildlife Service and many other conservation organizations, we have key, leaders within wildlife conservation organizations whom we have been able to mentor from the Giraffe Center from scratch. And today they are one of the leading, government employees or private sector employees. And we have a few young men who are running their own enterprises based on environmental conservation or tourism enterprises within the country. So at least I'm assured of the future when I see these young men, because they are standing on my shoulders, and I know we are assured even if we retire or we move to another organization, then Rural Center will have a pool from where it can be able to fill in those positions. If you have any who are listening and they are taking any courses in tourism management, natural resource management, or wildlife conservation, they can go online and they can apply for an opportunity in the future. We recruit about 9 students every quarter of the year. So by the end of the year, we have to train about 36 students, and some of them, we retain them within our system.
Okay, I don't want to preempt what you are doing, but
yes,
my concern is not a concern, just a question. How many species do you have there? Why I'm asking that? Do you allocate those students or trainees or whatever you call them according to the species that you have there?
It happens that we have 2 sections. We have the tourism section because, people coming to the center have to interact with the giraffes. We need enough manpower to help them interact with the giraffe and even to share the story about conservation, why the giraffes found their way to the center. So that's upon the people or the students who have been assigned the tourism section to be able to take care of that. Then we have a section which we call environmental education and conservation section. And the staff members under this section, they have the mandate to interact on daily basis with the school groups coming to the Giraffe Center, undertake the ecology tree programs, and organize for special training of trainers workshop for teachers from different schools within the country to train them on how they can be able to integrate environmental aspect into the school curriculum. A few of them, because giraffes like is our main flagship species, we have the warthog, but the warthogs and other wildlife species found within the Giraffe Center, they are free to come and go. And even the giraffe, they are more semi-tame, but Victor happens to be in charge of the animal welfare within the Giraffe Center. So he's working with a number of students between 4 to 5 so that he can be able to train them on how to manage giraffe welfare or animal welfare. And he has to liaise so closely with the Kenya Wildlife Service because like for vet unit, we don't have any vet officer employed by the Giraffe Center, but we rely much on the Kenya Wildlife Service because they are the best well-trained vet doctors and they are able to offer the best advice and service to our giraffes. Even when it comes to translocation, we work in partnership with them because they are the best capture and translocation unit within the East African region. I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah, okay. But now, just one more thing, sorry, Aisha.
It's all good.
How many species of giraffe do you have there?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, actually we mentioned we only have one species of giraffe in Africa with about 8 to 9 different subspecies. At the Giraffe Center, we only keep one of the subspecies, the Rothschild, because we mentioned these giraffes used to be common in the western part of Kenya and eastern parts of Uganda, but during the late 70s, the giraffes started losing their original habitat to farming in the western part of Kenya. And that's how Betty and Jock, who are our founders, heard about the plight of these giraffes, and they rescued them from western part of Kenya, brought a few to Giraffe Center. Others were taken to Lake Nakuru National Park, Romania, Lake Victoria, Nasalot. And this group, which is here for breeding purposes. We breed them and translocate most of the young ones and put them back to the wild. So we cannot bring the Maasai giraffes here or the reticulated because they will end up interbreeding with this subspecies which is found here. We might get an hybrid, but for the founders and our vision is to ensure we make sure we have 3 subspecies of giraffes in Kenya, and the Rothschild giraffe will be able to increase in numbers out in the world. We have to rewild them out in the world so that we can keep them as a pure subspecies.
Thank you so much. Is Andrew gone? Okay, thank you so much, Andrew. And thank you so much for answering that, Emmanuel. I just want to ask the University of the Free State if there's any more questions there.
Audience, any final questions from you guys? They're saying no, thank you, Aisha.
Okay, well, thank you to you guys. So Emmanuel and Victor, if there's Betty, who's named after the founder.
Yeah.
Are there an Emmanuel and a Victor walking around as well?
Not yet. Actually, initially we used to name the giraffes after the founders, the family who started the Giraffe Center. Then a few individuals from the African Fund for Endangered Wildlife USA and a few Kenya. But people have been, why are you giving them English names? So we had to look for a universal way of naming the giraffes. So of late, we name the giraffes after trees and after flowers. All the females who are born, we name them after flowers because Betty loved flowers, and because of their feminine or the beautiful nature of the female, then we name them after flowers. Then the bulls who are born at the Giraffe Center, we name them after trees because of their masculine nature. But to also localize the names, we use Swahili names. We have it Waridi. Yeah. Waridi is Swahili for the rose flower. We have it Nandi. Nandi is after the Nandi flame. We have it Holly. Holly, the youngest calf or daughter of Betty. Holly is named after the holy flower. And then we have Mpopi. Mpopi is named after the poppy flower. You know it very well. The flower of remembrance, and it was the time when we lost last Queen of England. And because it happened between August and September, and the flower for that month, because we are using like birthday flowers for the different months. So we also try to synchronize, their names with the birthday flowers for the month when they are born. But I said we use Swahili names so that we can localize the name. I hope one day, my Emmanuel might not be born at the Giraffe Center, but Betty and Jock will, every bull born at the Giraffe Center, we have to name it in memory of the founder. So whatever the case, we must always have a Jock within the family, and we must have Betty, but the other giraffe will be named after flowers or they'll be named after trees, and we give them the Swahili names.
Okay, that's interesting. So just the last question. Do you guys are you able to know which one by the pattern? Are you able to know the individuals by their patterns?
Yes, at the Giraffe Center, yes. But out in the world, like zebras and lions, sometimes lions, we say we can use their whiskers. They have individual whiskers. For the giraffes, we use the pattern. They have individual patterns, just like our fingerprints. So I was out in 2017 and 2018 doing giraffes population surveys in Ruma National Park and Muir Game Reserve. So what we're using the photographic method of the mark recapture method. So you take photos of the giraffe from one side of the body, then you run the photo through a special Wild ID software, and that software is able to match the giraffes for you. So that's a new technology in giraffe population estimates. So you are able to know how many giraffes we have in a given area, and it will never get it wrong. So it's more of mark recapture method, and that's how we are able to identify a few of the giraffes which were translocated to Muir Game Reserve many years ago. So we were able to identify Ibrahim was the henchmate of Eddie, our dominant bull. He was the angle of Eddie, and we got it right. I think he had been taken there in the year 2014. We went to Muir in the year 2017, and through the Wild ID software, we were able to identify that bull correctly.
Okay, so who is Ibrahim named after?
He's named after one of our Kenyan AFU directors, Dr. Ibrahim Ali.
Ah, okay. No, because it's my
Yes.
dad's name.
Salma is named after one of also the directors too.
Ah, okay. So if I become a
Yeah.
director, I'll have a giraffe named after me.
But of late, they cannot be able to get that privilege because we have made the naming, system more universal.
Yeah, no, no, thank you so much, Victor and Emmanuel. I see Eric
Victor
says in
can
the
go. I know we're concluding. Yeah.
I see Eric says in the chat that the session has just been so amazing, and I agree with that. From the University of the Free State, on behalf of the students, thank you so much for your generosity in sharing your time, insights, and passions for these living giants is greatly appreciated. So we hope to have the privilege of connecting with you again in the future. So yeah, to Victor, Emmanuel, and Mr. Dave de Beer, if you're still there, thank you very much. This has been a fascinating session.